لله رب العالمين نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونتوكل عليه ونتوب إليه من سيئات أعمالنا. الصلاة والسلام على حبيب إله العالمين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله المعصومين وصحبه المنتجبين.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم، وقل للمؤمنات يغضضن من أبصارهن ويحفظن فروجهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا ما ظهر منها. O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. That is purer for them. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity and do not reveal their adornment to anyone else. To lay the foundation of the discussion for concept of dress code in Islam, last night I talked about a number of factors that we have to bear in mind. I don't want to turn the conversation purely what we call theological and go straight to the verses of the Holy Quran and Ahadith and say these are the one. Because we are confronted with the reality that we have to be mindful of. Number one, there are those who no matter what you do, no matter what you explain, what hadith you bring, verses of the Holy Quran you explain, they have a unique mindset that they are not going to change. They have chosen a lifestyle. The issue of dress code is not part of it. If they decide to come out half naked, that's the choice they have to make. If they cover themselves up with some kind of sari that shows everyone, it's again a choice they make. Or they don't wear covers in other countries. There are those people that no matter what facts and figures, ahadith, ayat, you try to explain to them, they are adamant that they are not going to change. That's their lifestyle. To bring something that Quran talks about, it says that talking about Jahiliyyah, says that these people say that we found our ancestors living a particular lifestyle and we intend to follow that lifestyle. The idea of guidance, divine revelation, and everything else is neither here nor there. For these people, this conversation is not going to be of use at all, as I explained, because they are not going to listen. Mark my word, next year, the year after, they still come back and say that hijab is not wajib, because they don't want to hear it. Remember, during the story of Nuh, he said that every time I went to my people and talked to them about God, they put their fingers in their ears so that they don't hear the truth. For these people, they don't want to hear the truth. But at least one expects from them that when they want to say that it is not wajib, it's just culture, be mindful of the fact that they haven't paid attention to the facts and figures. Number two, because we are talking about hurma, what is haram and what is halal here, technically discussion on the issue of dress code is what kind of dress code is permissible and what kind of dress code is not permissible. It boils down to this. Am I allowed to go out with wearing a particular dress that doesn't cover my body? Is it permissible or it is not? So because it is hukm, ultimately we go back to wujub, hurma, and so on. Number one port of call that you want to have is to go to your marja and ask that person to define for you exactly what is the hijab or code of dress that you should wear and the parameters of it. And most scholars, most grand scholars, if you go to their website and send them text, they're going to tell you exactly what is their fatwa. So the first place you really need to search, if you care about it, is to go to the marja and ask their opinion. You can even send them a picture of what you're going to dress. I'm going to dress like this. Is it going to be permissible or it's not going to be permissible? That's something else. I remember the questions that we had in England regarding a number of people from India and Pakistan area, that they used to wear saris. And saris, as you are familiar, there are two types of it. There is a sari that covers part of the upper body and the lower body is bare, and there is a sari that covers the entire one. I had seen doctors very conscientious and observant wearing a sari, complete sari, that there was nothing bare and nothing exposed. And there were others who pretended to be followers of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and Latmiyas and everything else. They went out with at least half of the body bare. So this led a question, and they sent a istifta to, I believe, Ayatollah Khoi's office. And the response came that this particular sari is definitely out. Why? Because it does not fulfill the conditions that I'm going to list at the end. The definition of dress code in Islam is that a man, by the way, this applies, the dress code applies to both, is not just for women, but slightly changed as far as men goes. The code of dress that you need as a man to observe, you are still obligated to go through the modesty and chastity factor and dress in a manner that falls under that category. A short and short sleeve and so on, technically from a theological as well as ethical perspective, it's not modest and it's not chaste. So it's out. What I have seen here is that some husbands or parents and so on, they violate the male, they violate the rule of dress code, and then they tell their females, you have to follow exact rule that has been prescribed. So the definition in Quran that we talk here about women should cover their body shape, underclothing, arms, legs, hair, when they are associating with strangers not related to them as mahram. And Quran lists what they are considered to be mahram: fathers, husband, father of the father, sons, etc., etc. These are the ones that are considered to be part of the family. They have a different ruling for them, but strangers outside the circle, they are supposed to cover themselves, all of this, in front of those that are strangers outside. And I talked about the reason why this is necessary, because on the one hand, Islam is aware of the fact that social mix of the society is men and women. And you can't hide more than 52-55% of the population behind some kind of a cover, not to allow them to come out. Male, female need to interact in social life. Rather than austere and say that it's not allowed completely, Islam somehow tries to moderate the whole relationship and say you can go out, but under this condition. And again, Islam as a religion and as a faith reserves the right for itself to define whatever it considers to be right and moral, and to define whatever it considers to be immoral, and develop a law, ethical, moral law that says this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. The choice is ours, whether we want. Now, Islam has to change its laws. No, you have to change. Islam is not going to change for one particular. Just imagine Islam goes through what the West went through from 1960s up to now. The whole fundamental and ethical and moral principles is shifting like sand dunes. Every day, one different style. Islam says, these are my principles. And there is a fundamental reason. This is my worldview. My worldview is that you, as human being, ultimate goal is to submit to the command of Allah and become the image of Khalifatullah on earth. Anything that falls outside this perspective, I do not accept. This is why it condemned ethical, moral, economic, political concepts that existed in Jahiliyyah before, as these are not conducive and supportive of what we call the ideal society that Islam wants to, or as said, Madina al-Fadila, that Islam wants to establish. So once this law is clearly defined, then we go to the Holy Quran. There are two chapters in the Holy Quran, Surah An-Nur and Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 24 and chapter 33. Various verses in chapter 33 Al-Ahzab and various verses in chapter 24 Surah An-Nur regarding the issue of dress code. All scholars, Shia or Sunni, they have rested their argument or opinion regarding the code of dress, its limitation, as well as its parameters in their analysis of Surah Al-Ahzab or Surah An-Nur. When they go through this examination of these verses and go back and see what was the understanding that of the time. One thing you have to remember, that these verses were revealed during the time where Arab Jahiliyyah had a particular dress code for itself. It wasn't as if they were all naked wandering around and Islam comes around and says, this is the dress code you want to follow. This is why we see in one of these surahs tries to modify the concept of scarf, jalbab, and so on, to modify it. It says what you are wearing at the moment, and you're tying it behind your neck, loosen it so that it would cover the upper part. So the fact that there was some kind of jalbab, there was some kind of scarf, and so on, indicates that there was some kind of dress code. So when these people come and say it's not wajib, it's just up to you, you can decide for it. You tell me, at the beginning of Islam, you show me one example, once these verses, Surah Al-Ahzab and Surah An-Nur came, one lady, anyone that did not have a full cover. They understood these verses better than us, or you understand the verses better than them? Even when Fatima Zahra goes to the mosque, goes to the mosque to defend herself, and Amirul Mu'mineen, the concept of imama, and fadak, how does she go? Full hijab. And everyone, all the women around her, full hijab. And when she gets to the mosque, she puts a curtain. But there is a political reason for this. The space, one side of the curtain is a pure space where Zahra is standing. The other side is najis. She doesn't agree with it and stands to condemn the other side. She doesn't want to mix. That's why in one of the ayat regarding the wives of the Holy Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them, tells them that you are not like other women. You have to be mindful of your position, political position, so other people who have sickness in the heart would not abuse conversation with you and benefit from it politically. You have to speak from them behind a curtain. That's the only way the group of people have been designated, that they have to speak with others behind the curtain. The wife of the Holy Prophet. Everybody else, no, they are allowed to do this freely. But free mix under certain condition. as we say, chaotic approach. There is no rules and so on. Islam doesn't accept. Moral balance has to exist within the society. I pointed this last night. Islam says interact, but interact in a manner that you see humans on the other side rather than seeing gender. So it's crisis when you don't adhere to this principle. The verse that talks about the life of the Holy Prophet and the wife of the Holy Prophet tells them that you have to stay behind the curtain and talk to others. I wonder how they are going to justify the position Aisha took when she stood up against Ali, while she was commanded to stay inside the house and talk to others from behind the curtain, unless they say that she wasn't the wife of the Holy Prophet, which makes the whole thing problematic. The issue of curtain is specific for them, but there are some commands to these women that applies to everybody else. When they are commanded, when you talk to strangers, don't use that soft tone of conversation. Try use a tone which is normal. Again, we discussed this last night. The male-female interaction and dynamic in society, in Muslim or Islamic society, is based on the fact that these people interact, but mindful of the chastity and modesty and the ethical taqwa and everything else that is the foundation of relationship. So long as these exist, no problem. The verse make a distinction between what it calls the outer adornment, the inner adornment. The outer adornment, face and hand, these are the exception, unless you follow the Wahhabi mindset that covers everything. But from, if you go to these verses, the outer adornment, which is face and hand, are exceptional because it's needed. You need to be active within society. You can't cover your face and cause huge amount of problem. Recently, in Sweden and Switzerland and other Scandinavians, the law was passed that these people come with full niqab and they can't see anything but some kind of a slit in the middle where the eyeballs are there. And the government said, okay, how do I recognize who this guy is? Or it could be a man or it could be a woman in this. So they forced them, niqab, at least to establish government identity, you need the face to be exposed. Islam says this. It's later that was added to it. So outer adornment for everyone else, all strangers, face and hand. Everything else has to be covered. I have to make a comment. As long as the face remains in the normal state, natural state. But if you put half a pound of mascaras and foundation on it, and change the entire rainbow color in your lips and nose and somewhere else, this face is no longer the natural face. Islam says cover it. Why? Because face in its natural state is supposed to be helping you to exercise your right without other people becoming conscious of your femininity. But if you add eyelashes to your own lash and make it 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters long, and all the colors that you can imagine, and the face is no longer the original natural face, Islam says, I agree that the outer adornment made an exemption of hand and face. This is not, I would not consider it to be the normal and the natural state. So excluded. And anything that enhances the look, even sometimes they go through various kind of surgeries and so on to make the eyebrows, or if it becomes attractive to others, it's not allowed. Number two, what Islam considers to be the inner adornment. An inner adornment which includes only for mahrams, which fathers, brothers, sons, and everybody else. hair, upper part of the chest from here up is, and arms, neck, legs up to the knee, they are excluded. You can wear something that your knees are showing, but for mahram only, not for anybody else. Anything that outside this remains in the relationship between husband and wife, then that's a totally different story. But the inner and outer construction, for mahram, you have certain things, and for non-mahram, you have others. Exception for non-mahram is the face and the arm, the hand, as long as they are not touched up. And for mahram, you have the inner adornment, which is hair, upper part of the chest, neck, arms, legs to the knee, etc. Under all circumstances, you are still obligated to observe modesty. If you are doubtful that any of they are mahram, but your code of dress code, what you are wearing, could lead to some kind of reaction in the child. That's why Quran says children, when they reach close to the age of puberty and they begin to distinguish gender, in the morning when they come to your living quarters, they have to knock at the door and ask permission. Part of the ethical and moral principle. Not to be exposed to something that leads to a huge amount of psychological problem for them. So here says you have to be mindful of the fact that still we are obligated to go through this with modesty, taqwa, and everything else. Adornment for husband, which is a totally different story. I need to add a little bit here. The dress code that Islam came up with, as I said, it's not something that out of the blue Islam suddenly pulled the rabbit out of a hat and said, now I need to follow this. Huge number of the Jews used to have their own code of dress. If you go type in code of dress in various religions and see how what we call the Orthodox and more observant members of different communities, whether Hindus, Buddhists, you go Brahmas and others, and you go to Christian, Jews, and even Zoroastrians and so on, they had their own code of dress. Islam came looking at what existed in Jahiliyyah, tried to modify it a little bit. This is why it talks about khumr, jilbab, which is a scarf behind. You don't tie it behind your neck, just let it loose to cover the upper part of your body. Scholars have agreed, at least within the concept of hijab or code of dress for female. There are other ones for male that, inshallah, some other time I will talk about it. Here they are, list, very quick. The covering must conceal the entire body except the face under natural condition and the hand. 2, it should not be translucent or tight. Tight clothes that still describes all the cleavages and size is not considered to be part of hijab or code of dress that Islam accepts. And shape, creating a vivid image. I don't need even to imagine anything. Here it is. Technically, I'm wearing something, but you might as well not wear anything. Everything is revealed and vivid. It's not allowed. It should not attract the attention of the opposite gender. This applies to the color you choose and everything else, the material and everything else. In choosing the garment, principle of modesty and chastity must be observed with regard to color. You try to be somehow conspicuous, but then you choose pink color or something that as you walk around, from miles away, they can recognize somebody wearing a dress code like that. It has to be, one has to be recognized. Excessive use of perfume. There are so many ahadith about this, that women that wear these excessive perfume that attracts the attention of male as they pass by. You can smell them from miles away. On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send them straight, you know where, with shaitan. So excessive spraying of all the things that is possible is not allowed. Perfume and you have to be still remaining within the parameters of taqwa, modesty, chastity, and remembering the fact that we going out dealing with other people, it has to be not conscious of femininity, it has to be just pure human interaction. And as long as you don't do any of this, the relationship is fine. And as long as these conditions are fulfilled, then a woman has the right to decide what kind of dress code she has, whether it is full sari that covers her body, or in Iran chador, or in Iraq abaya, or other places, or here you can use loose material shirts or whatever it is. Ultimately, it boils down to the number one: the coverings must conceal the entire body except the face and the hand, and should not be tight and should not be revealing. Naturally, there are other conditions as far as the material that you use. It should not be extravagant, it should not be very expensive. Chanel number 5 or whatever it is that you have to pay a fortune. Islam does not consider this part of your attire. You have to be normal. Be mindful of that responsibility. Whatever culturally is normal, then it becomes permissible. So the hijab or the dress code of adherent Pakistani woman that is covering herself according to these conditions fully, but she uses the material, the code of dress in the context of whatever culturally acceptable, then is equally valid to the hijab of, say, an Iraqi woman that wears abaya and conceals her body through that, or chador in Iran, or somewhere else, or in what we have it in the West. Islam has come to define the objective, leaving the strategy to us, knowing fully well that if we observe and we apply the conscious of the objective, we come from different cultures, we might be able to do the same thing, but under the guise of the culture. They are equally valid, because at the end of the day, that dress, whether it's a Pakistani woman, Indian woman, or Iraqi woman, or Iranian woman, it's not covering most of the body. It's not concealing the entire body, and the face and the hand is open. And the rest are fulfilled. So, inshallah, but again, I have to end with the same warning that I started. Those who have already bought into the concept of feminism, no matter how many verses in the Holy Quran you bring, the analysis and examination from the Sunni or Shia perspective you bring, it is not going to change. For them, we have to say, Lakum dinukum waliya din. You do whatever you want, and I'll do whatever I want. But please don't tell me it doesn't exist, or it's not haram, it's not halal. This, because you don't want to listen. So you do whatever you want. إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. You've got the free will, you exercise it the way you want, and at the end of the day, be mindful. But when we sniff the last breath, all this body that you have pampered, exposed, shown to everybody else, gone through all various operations, increase the size here, reduce the size there, it takes only 1 week to disintegrate. 1 week to remain to the bone. And the bone, 6 months, 7 months, if you are not one of the what we call those qalb salim. Otherwise, qalb salim, they stay. Then after that 6 or 7 months, your bones begin to disintegrate. This is a week ago when we were talking about Ma'ad. I said one of the problems that Jahiliyyah had was the fact that they were constantly asking, this person says that after we have died, and our body has disintegrated, and our bones have turned into dust, we are going to be resurrected again. So within a week, all the flesh goes. Within 6 months, disintegration of the bones. Probably within a year or two, that's it. We have seen people after many years, when they have opened their grave, they are as fresh as the moment that they were buried. And there are those that within a week, all gone. So I'll stop here. From tomorrow night, I want to switch the conversation to a very profound topic, and that is the concept of family structure, particularly bringing up children in this society. And what are the conditions needed, the process that we have to go through, what kind of relationship we're supposed to have, and how even the search process for your partner will ultimately affect the children that you have and their mindset. Inshallah, then I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all our amals. We are getting very close to the end of the month, so be conscious of that and do as much as you can by asking Allah for forgiveness. Tawbah is a critical issue. And we ask Allah to grant us the privilege of doing something constructive and changing. Somebody said, today is the 24th of Ramadan. 24 days ago was the beginning of Ramadan. If I look at myself and I see no change from the beginning of Ramadan, I'm still at the beginning of Ramadan, as if I have done nothing. I haven't changed. But within 40 days, if I have changed a little bit, then it becomes an issue. May Allah bless you all. رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا وَأَخْطَأْنَا. Oh Lord, don't punish us if we forget or if we go astray. Inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على